Layer solids are so simple. It's staggering how helpful and flexible they can be in your daily workflow. Now, to best show you what a layer solid is, we should just go ahead and create one. I want to make sure you have the project panel selected, so if it's not already selected, just click in the project panel. Now, there are two ways to create layer solids. The first way is to go up under the layer menu and choose new. But you notice it's greyed out, and that's because I have the project panel selected. Whenever you create layer solids using this method, you need to specify exactly which composition you'd like the solid to reside in. So I'm going to deselect my layer pull down here and just click in the composition window for my hand comp. If yours isn't already open, just double click on the hand comp. I have the timeline selected. That's perfectly fine as well because it's for the hand counts. So let's go up under layer and choose new solid. When I've done that, our solid settings open, and if yours don't look like this, that's perfectly fine, because the solid settings will always remember the last layer solid that you created. So I'm just going to reset my color to black by clicking in the little color well here, and I'll make it black. Alright, now if we look at the width and height for the size, the default should be your comp settings. If you don't have yours set up like this, just go ahead and click Make Comp Size, and it'll make sure that the solid is that size. All solids created are some form of square or rectangle. There are no round edge solids. Now, if I wanted this to be half the size of my comp, I'll go ahead and lock my aspect ratio, and then just do a little quick math and choose half the width, so 640. And since I have this locked, it'll automatically change the height. Now for units. I like leaving it in pixels because we're in video, but as you can see, you could change the units, and our specific format is already square pixels, but if you click on the pull down, you can choose whatever size you need based on your project settings. Now when I click OK, we'll create a black layer solid. Now like I said before, there are not round edge solids, so around the edges, what you need to do is create a mask for that layer solid. Before I create the mask, I just want to explain what we're doing. We're going to create a layer solid as a background for your logo, and then we'll use that logo in two different compositions. So let's start by actually making a circle for our layer solid. Now since I have the layer solid selected, let's go up to our tool panel and grab the ellipse tool. If you don't have the ellipse tool currently active, press Q on your keyboard. Every time you press Q, it'll cycle through the different shapes that you can create. Now since I have a layer selected, when I click and drag with this tool, it's going to go ahead and create a mask for the layer that I have selected. Now I'm going to hover my mouse right over the center of the anchor point of this layer. The reason I'm doing this, I want the center of my circle to be in the center of my layer solid. So once that's lined up, I'm going to click and drag. And notice as I start to drag, it's already cropping the edges of my solid off. If I hold down Shift, it will transform in proportion. If I hold down Shift and Command, it'll scale up around the center point. Now as I drag this out, notice the mask will go beyond the edges of the solid. Since the mask is tied to the layer solid, any adjustments that I make, I just need to be aware of the size of the actual layer solid if I really want the mask to just maintain its particular shape. Go ahead and make the mask just a little bit smaller than the size of the layer solid. I want to adjust the color of the solid, and to do that you can press Command-Shift-Y or Command-Shift-Y on a PC, and that'll open your solid settings. And here I can change the color. Let's say I want to change it to kind of a teal blue color. I'm just going to click over here, and there we go, a little cyan. And I click OK. Notice it's automatically changed the name to that cyan color, and I'll click OK. Now we need to add our logo into the circle. So let's go to the graphics folder in the project panel and click and drag our logo down into the timeline. Now with the logo over the circle, I'm going to press S and click and drag on the scale parameter to scale this down around the center point. Now notice as the Illustrator file was scaled, the control handles for the file are way out here on the sides. That's just an interesting point if you're trying to reposition something or scale something directly in the comp window. You want to know where the edges of the handles for that layer are. For example, if I select layer 2 here, you can see the handles have already resized based on the size of my mask. Now that brings up a good point. notice the edges of the mask are perfectly centered on the center of the layer. I did that on purpose because if we open our transform options for layer 2, if we needed to rotate this layer for any particular reason, I wanted to make sure that the mask didn't wobble around. If you need to move the mask on the layer, you can select the mask by clicking on the mask in the timeline, and then if you have your selection tool selected, by pressing the V key. You can click on any one of the control handles, and since all 4 are selected, they'll all move around the layer. Now notice as I'm moving around, the rotation of the layer actually was applied, even though we couldn't see it. If I click and drag on the rotation again here, you can see what's happening with that solid. I'm going to press Command Z a couple of times to undo and get back to where we were. Now since this shape was created with a mask on my layer solid, I'm always seeing the edges of the mask in addition to the solid. If you ever just want to turn off the mask so you can better see what's going on in the scene visually, you can click on this button here in the bottom left corner of the comp window. It's just 2 to the right of the magnification settings. Go ahead and click on that, and that will toggle the mask on and off. With this off, I'm looking at the edge of the circle. When I go to render this project, this is exactly what it's going to look like. Even if I had the visibility of the mask on, you wouldn't see the mask. They don't render. Now I'll turn that off and go up under Effect and choose Generate Stroke. And the reason I did that is I want to add a slick stroke around the outside of my circle, just to sort of weight the logo a little bit better inside of that circle. Now notice the effects control panel is already popped up upon the left side of the interface. So if you click and drag on the brush size, we can go ahead and increase the edge size of the circle. Now we've got everything set up kind of the way that I'd like. Let's go ahead and collapse layer 2 and collapse layer 1. Now I'd like to copy this logo and the background circle into another composition. So I'm going to click on the layer solid and hold down Shift and click on layer 1. With both layers selected, I'm going to press Command C or Control C to copy, and let's jump over to our sprint comp. If you don't have it in your timeline down here, you can go back to your project panel and double click on the sprint comp. Now let's go ahead and press Command V or Control plus to paste, and you notice the logo pasted underneath of the solid. Well, let me undo to show you what happened there. We jump back to our hand comp. The reason it did that, we selected bottom up. Now the order in which you select your layers will determine how they actually get pasted into the next composition. So I'm going to click on the top layer and hold down Shift and click on the layer below. Now if I Command C to copy, I can go to the other comp and Command V to paste, and they will paste in the proper order. The last cool thing about their solids is the fact that they actually are imported into the project panel. If we open the folder solids that After Effects automatically created, you can see my solids in here. Should you ever want to create a layer solid without already having an account, you can come up under File and choose Import and choose Solid, and you can get to the same layer solid menus and import a solid directly into your comp pane. Now with your solids selected, let's go ahead and make a change, and I'm going to show you how to update under both comps. So with the layer side still selected, let's go up under Layer and choose Solid Settings, or Shift Command Y or Shift Control Y, and let's change the color a little bit. I'll click on that teal color in the color dropper and go ahead and change that to blue. When I click OK and click OK one more time, it'll affect both comps because of this checkbox right here. Affect all layers, and use a solid. It's going to affect 2 layers. When I click OK now, notice I have a blue solid in my sprint comp, and I have a blue solid in my hand comp. So as you can see, layer solids are relatively simple in their creation, but once you actually get working with them, they're extraordinarily flexible for your different workflows.